All right, things are loading up. Let's give it a second to load up. A bit more resolution. Okay. That's sorted out. Brilliant. Okay. So how is everyone doing? Want to make sure I'm coming through. All right, so I can hear myself now. Perfect. All right. Last but not least, I'll set up final part. And where is it? This mic. All right, perfect. Everything's looking good. It's going to, it's going on Twitch as well. All right. Okay, so if you have any questions, please just send them through and I'll do my best to answer them if I can. Sometimes it's hard to kind of do two things at once. All right, I think we are good to go. All right. Now let's switch this over to the main feed, or the main screen really. Okay. All right, it's going to set everything up nice and tight over here, and we might as well just get into things. I think everything's gone up. I have set up my computer again. I installed the latest Mac OS and then also switched over to new OS. So I'm just making sure everything is working. Had a bit of a funny moment this morning today when I was setting it up, realizing that latest Mac OS comes with some gestures. So if you make a gesture with your hands, it kind of throws up a balloon. And I was like, what is this? This is, who thought it was a great idea to add this type of gesture? Who? Honestly, I don't know. Anyway, we're good to go now. All right, let's jump into things. All right, so we're going to be talking about what import YouTube videos using CSV file with feeds in Drupal. All right, so we might as well get started. All right. Hello and welcome to this live stream where I'll show you how to import YouTube videos that are packaged in a CSV file into a Drupal site using the feeds module. Now, what is the feeds module? Well, feeds, Now, the name may not suggest exactly what it does, but it essentially can be used to set up incoming feeds that continuously update content in Drupal. So that's one use case of it, hence the name feeds. So what you do is you can point it to a CSV file on a remote server, and that CSV file can be updated, and then periodically it can be pulled down every hour, every day, every week. You can fully customize that whichever way you want, and then it will simply import content into Drupal. So it's a good way of syncing content over from a JSON file, which you can do, an XML file. I don't like XML, but you can do that. But it's just not, it's just a nice way to pull in content and pull it into a Drupal site. Now, one of the reasons I like using it is that it gives you a pretty decent UI, a very powerful interface for just migrating content across, and it can be used to just migrate one-off content. If you have a CSV file that you just want to use to import a bunch of YouTube videos, like I'm going to show you tonight, you can do so. We could set it up if YouTube still allowed. I don't know if YouTube still has RSS feeds, but a common use case for feeds is to point it to an RSS feed, and then it simply pulls in that RSS feed and creates nodes or content. I'm showing my age right now by saying nodes, by creating content in Drupal based off the RSS feed. That was a very common use case. Now, I don't remember if YouTube still has those RSS feeds. They used to. I know they used to, but then every social media platform decided to lock things down. So tonight, what we're going to do is create, well, I've got a CSV file with a few things. So here, let me show you what the CSV file looks like. So if we go take a look here, we have a CSV file right here with name, URL, and a date. So these are the actual most recent live streams that I've done over at WebWash. So if you want to see these live streams, go head over to WebWash and check them out. And what we're going to do is create a media entity, so a remote media entity. And we are going to use feeds to migrate this content in. And then we'll just slowly build it out by looking at using, well, first of all, the feeds module to do the initial import. And then we're going to look at a popular module for feeds called Feeds Tamper. It allows you to tamper things, hence the name Feeds Tamper. Now, usability of a module starts with a name, and this name is, this module is nicely named, Feeds Tamper. I do like it. And this tamper module I use a lot. I use it on all of the websites where I use feeds, and I'll show you why it's used. Then once we've done that, we are going to create an actual content type and reference those remote video media entities, just so we can then create a basic view that lists out all of our videos, or the WebWash videos. And then we're going to, and I didn't put this in, and I will create another tab for this. I'll call this one, what is it? Fit vids. Then we're going to be using fit vids to give us a nice resized embedded YouTube player. And that's it. And then we're going to call it a night. And who knows? We'll see. All right. So with that, let's jump over to our Drupal site. And what I've got here is just a basic Drupal 10.3 site. There you go, 10.3. And I'll search for feeds. Now, I've already downloaded feeds because I'm sure you don't want to watch me use Composer. However, there is one thing to be aware of, and that is if I jump into VS Code, you will get a possible error. Let me zoom this in a little bit more so you can see that. I'm just seeing that in the feed. Yeah, that looks all right. You will have to update this minimum stability. If you do get a error with Composer, it might complain, especially when you're using when you download feeds tamper, because it depends on some library that is an alpha. And normally this is set to, I believe, stable, but you may change this. Try changing it to beta. If that doesn't work, change it to alpha, and then things will be downloaded. So this in Composer just stops you from downloading certain versions of modules or packages. So you may want to have it set up so you only want the stable version, or you may only want a beta version of a package. Or in this case, we have to set it so that we can allow alpha versions of a package. So just be aware that you might hit that roadblock. But if you're watching this a year from now, maybe the library's been updated. Who knows? So just a heads up, because most people do watch this video after the fact, not live. Okay, so if we jump back here, let's go ahead and install feeds and feeds log. We'll come back and install Tamper in a second. Now the feeds log module just logs all of the actions that happen. So it's a great way of just debugging things. So I highly recommend that you do have it on. All right, so let's go to structure, and we should see feed types. So now we need to create our actual feed type where we specify what we're going to download and also all the mapping. So go to feed types and click on add feed type, and I'll call this one, what do we call this? Media YouTube videos, just so we know, okay, we're installing the media one. Now, before we do that, actually, let's go to extend and install the media module. So media and media library. We'll just install media library, and that should handle the media module. There we go. Let's refresh this. Let's type in media and then YouTube videos. And from the fetcher, this is where you specify how you want to pull in the source data. Now, as I mentioned, feeds can be used and is often used to just periodically import content in from some type of URL. So you can point it to a directory, you can point it to a URL, or in our case, we're just going to upload a file. And then the parser is what the source is going to be. So in our case, we want it to be a CSV. We can see that we have RSS, we have XML sitemap, and so on and so forth. So let's select CSV. Then from processor, you would have to select one for your media, your entity type. So let's select media. And then from media type, you want to select remote video, which is our bundle. Then from settings, you can define import period. In our case, we are going to set it to off because we don't want to continuously import it in. But you can see here that, yeah, you can set it up in many ways, every 15 minutes, 30 minutes. You could essentially now, you might be thinking, what if I want to do it at 59 or 58 minutes and things like that? Then what you could do is configure, I think, there is a cron module where you can control exactly what function is run using cron. So you could set it to as often as possible and then configure that separate cron process to run this at a particular time. But I'm sure there's probably a drush command for it. That is a good question. Let's have a quick look and see. I did not check if there's a drush command. So if I type in grep, oh, there it is. There you go. So you can easily import it in. So you could set up a custom cron job that fires off a drush command to kind of pull things in. There you go. So you do have a bunch of options. Then under fetch settings, that's whatever is set here. We want to allow CSV, that's fine. You may want to put this in a private directory depending on how important your data is, because this is publicly accessible. Then you have the parser settings. You can adjust the delimiter, that's a tough word, delimiter, delimiter, default delimiter, there we go. It's a bit late here. I'm a little exhausted. And then you have the processor settings. Now, this is the fun part. And this is where you define how to handle new content, also how to update content, what to do with previously imported, expired content, so on and so forth, okay? Now, the first one is insert new media items. So if the system figures out, because you will flag, like for example, we will flag the URL as unique, which means that if there is a new URL appear, what should happen? So it's going to insert the new media items or do not insert the new media items. You can configure that. Then you have updating existing content. So what will it do when it reruns it? Okay, when it updates it, when the item is already there. Well, you have do not update, which is a common way. Maybe you just want to do a one-way sync, but you may want to update the content. And then you have replace existing media items, and then you have update existing media items. Now, what is the difference between replace and update? That is a question I had as well. And essentially what I can gather from looking at an old issue queue is that replace simply updates the content directly into the database without firing off any of the extra hooks in the actual save lifecycle of a entity. Whereas if you select update, it's going to do it the more of the traditional Drupal way, where it goes through the standard hook system. And that means that then every other module along the way will go ahead and update things at the same time. I hope that kind of makes sense. So essentially think of it like this. Replace will simply jump straight to the database and just update the source or the media item straight away. Whereas update will do it through Drupal's API, which means then other modules will then be able to modify things if they have been configured. So they do recommend that you always set it to update. Just leave it set to update because that's the way to have the least amount of problems. So we'll leave it to that because we will update it in a second. And then you have previously imported items. You want to keep it, or you may want to delete it. You may want to unpublish it. It's up to you. And then if we scroll further down, you have expired items. So once they are no longer there, what should happen with them? So you may want to delete the items if they're no longer in the feed. And then you can specify a owner. So by default, it's going to be the anonymous user will be the owner. So the authored by, I believe, yep. And then under advanced, you have a few other options down here as well. But let's just leave everything as it is and then click on save and add mapping. Now we get to the fun part of defining the mapping. So from the target, let's select, where is it? Name. So now we want to populate the name field on the media. And we need it to be coming from a CSV column with the header column name of, well, name. So if I go back to, where is it here? You can see that this column, the actual name of the column is called name, and then we have URL and we have date. So we need to match this up. And let's select video URL. And this one needs to be URL. And finally, let's select created on, so authored on, sorry. And this one will be date. Now, I'm going to put an uppercase in there just because the column does have an uppercase. Let's do that. And we'll leave everything as it is. Oh no, we'll set the URL to be unique because this is just YouTube specific. So I do know that the URL is unique. You can guarantee that. And the default time zone will be set to UTC. All right, let's click on save. And now this should be enough for us to import everything in for the first time. So if we go to content, then feeds, and add feed, because at this point we've only created the feed type. So we've defined how our content's going to be processed, what we're importing in, and also the mapping at this point, but we haven't specified an actual import. So I'll call this one, I'll call it the same thing, like media, YouTube videos. Then we can define our, so where is this? Let me go to here. So this is a CSV file. Yes, it is. So it's going to go ahead and import that in. We do have a header row on our CSV file, so we'll leave that. Then down at the bottom, you can click on just save or save and import. We want save and import. So let's click on save and import, and it's going to go ahead now and import our CSV file and create the remote videos. So we should see our videos under the media section. So let's give this a second. Need a bit of hold music. Okay, 26 items were created. Now you do want to keep track of how many rows you have and just to match them up. Moment of truth. Oh, okay, there we go. Nice, nice, nice. We can see all of our actual videos. Nice, I like it. If we scroll up and let's edit one of these. So I'll select this one up at the top here. And the name has come across, which is good. The URL, which is fine. And the authoring information, authored on 27th. So 27th of the 6th. So build custom field development. Was that last week's? Let me double check. Right down at the bottom, I can see here 27th. Okay, that's good. That's imported in. Now, one thing I don't like is the time is set to midnight. And that's because we haven't actually specified the hour. And I normally do my live streams at 9 p.m. my time. So what we're going to do now is use feeds tamper to just tweak the value before it gets imported in to add in the hour. And it's going to go ahead and just simply update the existing content. Let's go back to feeds. And let's search for feeds and we'll select feed tamper and click on install. Go back to structure, feeds. Let's edit our feed type. And now you should see a new tab called tamper. And for each mapping, we get a section so we can manipulate things. So let's go down to add plugin. And here you can see all of the available plugins all the way to tamper with your values and your data. And what we can do, and trust me, there are a lot here. And at first, you want to spend a bit of time just getting your head around it because, there are a few cool ones such as list like explode, implode. That's great for dealing with data that's separated by a comma or something like that. But the one that we want to use is called rewrite. Because what we can do is we just want to concatenate a string essentially, right? Yeah. So we want the date and then we want to add in a space and then 21:00. So 24-hour time. The best way to talk about time. That's my thing. All of my digital clocks are always on 24-hour time. And I'm looking at my clock here on my Mac, which isn't because I haven't updated it yet, but all my clock. My thing is that when somebody says 9 o'clock, you don't know, is it AM or PM? But if you say 2100 hours, there's less ambiguity that way. So what we're going to do is type in 2100 hours. And there we go. So what's going to happen is this will pull in the date from here, which is a standard, which again is my most favorite date format, which is year. So the year, month, and day. Because again, it removes ambiguity. For some reason, certain countries like to have day or month. Other countries like to have month and day. And sometimes you're like, okay, so which one is it? And this way it removes ambiguity because the standard is that it's year, month, and day. And then if you put a space in, you can put in the hour, minutes, and then if you want, you can put in seconds, but I'm not going to deal with that. And we're just going to leave it as it is. Okay, so we've done that. We've added in this plugin. Now, the other thing you can do, and this is where things can go a bit, where things can get a bit complex, shall I say, you can add in multiple plugins and you can reorder them. So you could rewrite it, then you can add in another plugin to go ahead and explode it. And then you can add another plugin to go ahead and implode it. Then you can add another plugin to go ahead and do a regex. There's a lot of things you can do. Let me see if there is. What is pad? I am curious. I'm surprised at truncate. What does truncate do? Oh, okay, I guess. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, truncate. I'm surprised there isn't a concatenate. Yeah, plugin. I would honestly thought there would be. Oh, maybe maybe the rewrite is that specific thing. See, because what you could do is if you wanted to copy the value of another column, you could then use this copy to, copy from. Yeah, interesting. Anyway, just be aware of that. There's a lot you can do. Okay, so let's just save it. And we'll just leave that as it is for now. Let's go back to edit. Let's check out the processor settings. Yes, that is set up correctly. We want to import and we want to make sure that it is unique. So what's going to happen is it's going to come along in here, look at the mapping, match it up using this unique value here on the right-hand side. And then it's going to update it because it's already in the feed. So to rerun things, all we need to do is we can come along in here and come to feeds. We can just come down here and you can't see that because of my video, because of my actual cameras there. But if we click up the top here, you can delete items. So you can delete all the items and that will simply delete them. You can then import them in again. And then you can also go ahead and import them in the background. You can also look at the last imported, which is important, no pun intended. And then you can, if you click on logs, you can see what's been imported in. And then if you click on view entries here, you will see exactly, I believe, what has been imported. Perfect. And this is just a great way of just keeping track of everything that's coming. So if we go back, and then you can just see it here. Let me just remove my image. Where is it? Sorry. One sec. Right here, you get options down here as well. There you go. And let me pop back in. I believe if we look at items, yes, you can also see, yeah, if you click on items down here, up the top here, you can also see all of the actual items that have been imported in and when they were last imported in. So this is important to just get an idea of, okay, what's coming in and just keeping track of everything. Then if you click on it, it's going to take you to that. Okay, simple. Now let's simply import things in again. So if you come along up the top here and go click on import, it's going to run it using batch in the browser. So you don't want to move away from here. And that was much quicker because it's not downloading the thumbnails again, but you can see that 26 items have been updated. If no items were updated, it will say that. So keep track of what's being notified here. Because sometimes you may be like, oh, well, why weren't any updated? Why is that? Then that means some type of configuration problem. Then you have some type of configuration problem with your feeds. Then if we go to logs, we should see update here, view entries, and then we can see what's been updated and the operation as well, which has been updated. So just keep track of all of this when you're trying to debug things. Very important, very important. All right, if we go back to content, media. Now this updated will always be when it was updated, which is now. So don't think this is a created date. It always catches me off guard. But if I click on this, say, getting started with web form in a Drupal, we can see it was on the 14th of the 1st, which is January, and at 9 p.m. you can see here as well. Right here you can see 9 p.m. Okay, so now that is working, which is great. So that's pretty much when it comes to the feeds module. This is a real simple overview of it. Maybe in the future I will do an actual more in-depth video about pulling in content from a remote source, but it's kind of hard to show you content coming in because I'm not going to be waiting every hour for content to come in. That's why I had to do kind of like a one-off. But that's pretty much just an overview, an important overview, and enough for you to get started. So the most important thing to be aware of when it comes to using feeds or just any type of migration, and this is hugely important. The quality of your migration or the work that you do really depends on the quality of the source data. And when I say source, I mean the CSV file. First of all, figuring out exactly how you're getting this data. So when I talk to a client, or when I'm talking, when I'm doing like sprint planning, and one of the requirements are we need to import data and migrate data in. First of all, I ask them why, because it's not a fun process importing in data. Because then the second question is, where is this data coming from? And if they say, oh, we're going to give you a CSV file, okay, fair enough, good, that's a start. But can you guarantee that the CSV file is going to be clean? Can you guarantee that the data is going to be normalized? Can you guarantee that that you're going to have data integrity in that CSV? And what I mean by that is, if we are going to, say, for example, use this example of importing in YouTube videos, can we guarantee that every single row has a URL to a YouTube video? And that's important. Now, in this case, we only have 26 items, we can easily see. But if you're dealing with 10,000 rows, are you going to go through every single row and make sure that it's there? No, you're not. So that's where you will have to spend a bit of time fixing up the data. And this has happened to me a lot, where I've spent a fair bit of time finessing the data, normalizing the data, or getting it into some type of cleaner state. And then once you have it in a cleaned and prepared state, then you need to set up feeds, set up your mapping, figure out your unique ID as well, another important thing you can do, and then take it from there. But I would recommend that you focus on getting the source data that you're going to use, get that cleaned as much as possible, and focus on that. And then here, you just want to do minimal cleaning and minimal processing. That's been my experience. And I have in the past done things where I have pulled things into a database table in Drupal that Drupal's not controlling. It's just a MySQL database table. And that means that that's then my source of truth, and I can guarantee that the data in there is going to be correct. So once you have that sorted out, then everything should be nice and smooth. Should. But that's migration work. It's never a fun process. Because it might work and then a week later somebody breaks something and it's like, oh, why isn't this working anymore? One-off migrations are a bit better, but continuous feed work like this can be a bit annoying because you are going to get that message a year from now saying the feeds stopped working, or they'll be like, oh, the feed stopped working a year ago. Why is that? Well, oh, okay. So at this point, we've created our feed. We've imported in our media. Now let's just do a bit of quick site building and create our content type to actually display this data on the front end. Because right now, if we go to feeds and then click onto it, I don't think media actually has a view page. It used to. I thought it did. If you go to configuration, media settings, here we go. You do have this option right here. So if we select this one, let's have a quick look. Where does this go to? Oh, okay. No. We don't want that. We don't want that. Open up a new tab. No. No. I guess you can do it this way. So you can point directly to the media item, but we're not going to do that. I don't like that. I don't like it. All right, let's switch that off. By default, it should be switched off. Normally you want that switched off. So now what we need to do is create an actual content type. Let's go ahead and do that quickly. So content types, add. Now, if you want to learn more, here we go. I can do a bit of a plug, eh? If you want to learn more about creating content types and fields, why don't you check out my Getting Started with Fields in Drupal? I believe I do. Do I even have a content type one? No, I don't. So if you want to learn more about creating content types and fields, look no further than the exclusive Getting Started with Fields in Drupal video. That is this one. I'll show it to you once I've got it all set up. So let me quickly go ahead and create a content type. So I'll call this one video, used for embedding YouTube videos. Let's just leave that as it is. Leave the body in there. And let's create a media field. So click on create a new field. It used to be called add field. I think I said that last week. And this is slightly changed in 10.3. Before there used to be the label field. So we'll select media. And we'll call this one just video. From media type, we'll select remote video. And then save settings. Let's move video widget all the way to the top. Click on save. Manage display. Where are we going to do that? Where are we going to do that? Well, actually. What we're going to do, let's configure the teaser. And let's hide that. And we'll use the thumbnail because the thumbnail has been downloaded. And let's set it to 220 by 220. Go. There we go. Click on save. And last but not least, let's go back up to here. And what I want to do is turn on full content. Go to full content, and I'll move this full content, or the video up the top, body. Let's hide the label. And let's just leave the view mode for that to be default and click on save. All right, everything is done. So we've configured things. Now let's go ahead and create another feed type. Now there are a few ways we could do this. We could technically write a bit of custom code at the end of the at the end of the first feed type to create the actual content type. I'm just thinking out loud here. The other option is we could look at using like ECA, which is that event condition action module, to potentially create the content type at the end. We could do that. But we're going to do it a different way. What we're going to do is we're just going to use the same CSV file, and I'll show you how we're going to reference the actual media entity. Because remember, the video field references the remote video media, which we already imported in. So there's a few steps involved here. Well, there's really one step, but there's one hurdle we need to jump over. So let's click on Add Feed Type, and this will be called Content Video. Let's select this, same one again. So this would be pretty much the same, but no, we'll select Node, Video. What is it? Fetcher, Parser. No, where's the other one? Ah, here we go. Settings. Set this one to update. Everything's staying the same, absolutely the same. Now what we need to do is set the title. And this one needs to be name. So it needs to match the CSV columns. Then we click right down at the bottom. You will see video feed. So just make sure you select video. Sorry, just video. And this one will be URL, I believe. Is that it? What is it? URL? Yes, it is. Then we need to click on this cogwheel over here. And referenced by, we want to reference it using the value in this field. So this is the field media embed video. So this is the actual YouTube video. So what it's going to do is that it's going to reference and find the remote video media entity using the actual YouTube URL. So that's how we kind of reference them up and match them up. Then click on save. I do believe everything is okay. Yep. Oh no, sorry. Authored on. Yeah, let's do that one. And that will be the date. Have to do the same thing with Tampa as well. And see, this is where I'm mentioning about cleaning up your source data. Every single time we create a new feed type, we have to then configure Tampa. Now, wouldn't you think it would be smarter to just put in the 2100 hours or 9 p.m. in the CSV file just once, and that means you've set up once and that's it. So that's what I mean by you really need to think about fixing up your source data and making sure it's nice and clean, because over time you may actually spend a lot more time configuring up all your little mappings and Tampa thing just to work around crappy source data, when you can spend a bit of time in fixing up your source data that once and that's it. So that's where you need to kind of figure out, is it worth fixing it up in the source file or fixing it up in Drupal? Let's click on save, click on Tampa, and let's just do the same thing. So what is that? Rewrite. And then this one's date space 21:00. Submit, and we are done, I believe. Anyway, if we're not, we'll get an error. Now let's go to feeds, add feed. Now we have our video. So we'll call this one content video. And let's select the same CSV file and click on import. This should be relatively quick because it's not downloading anything, just referencing things across, and it has created Again, as I mentioned, pay particular attention to the operators here. When he says created, updated, because it really does mean when it created, that means it's created new content. When it's updated, it's gone in there and updated content. We take a look at our items right here. We can see our items. Look at that. And if we go to content, we should see all of our content. So if we click on, say, the most recent, all the way down at the bottom, Drupal build session, custom field development. You can see that. That was on the 27th of June, which is correct. And if we click on here at 9 p.m., perfect. And we have our referenced piece of content, which is perfect. Everything is working. Let's fix this up so that it actually looks a little bit better than just this little tiny little embedded player right here. Now, if you don't want to use this module, so we're going to be using fit vids. If you want to configure, where is it? Let's close this. If you want to configure this embedded section, what you need to do is go to structure, media types, then edit. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see it. You can edit, I think, manage display. And if you go to video URL, you will see this O embed. And you can adjust the max width, max height, but it's not really responsive, doesn't really work well. What I recommend that you do is use just fit vid, or you're just going to have to style up a few things. So I've gone ahead and already downloaded this using Composer. One thing you will have to do is if I jump over to VS Code, you will have to add to your libraries this jQuery fitvids.js file. So just chuck that in. You will get a message saying, put it in there. So make sure you put it in there. And if we go to extend, search for fitvids, click on install. And then if you go to configuration, you will see fitvids here. You can configure a few things. So you can put in selectors, pretty much jQuery selectors to say, I only want the fitvid to run on videos which are part of this container. You can see by default it is .node, but there may be a situation where you want it in the toolbar, in the sidebar, or something like that. There's many ways you want to probably configure it. Oh, don't do that. And then you can also ignore it as well down here. Ignore items, and then it also supports other platforms as well. But the default functionality works pretty well. Then if we go here, click here, it should resize nicely. Oh, look at that. Look at that. And then if we resize, it's going to resize for mobile. Nice. Simple. Now, the last thing we're going to look at is just creating a basic view that lists everything out, because there's no point having just a simple homepage. Let's fix this up. Let's make this a little better. So if we come to structure, views, and click on add view, and we'll call this one latest videos. And we'll select video from the settings, newest first. Let's just make the path videos. And let's display 50 at a time. Well, let's just leave this as it is and click on save. And if you want to learn more, here's another plug. If you want to learn more about views, check out our amazing video on getting started with views in Drupal. It is your one-stop shop video where you can learn about views. And it goes for 1 hour and 27 minutes. So there you go. If you want to learn more about views, check out this video. All right, so let's go back to views. And if we save it, let's just save this and see what happens. Well, I know what's going to happen. It's just going to list out all the content. Okay, let's now fix this up and display it in a grid format. Let's make it look nice, make it look good. So click on responsive grid and then apply. And how many do we want? 3, 4, 3, 4, I don't know. Let's do 3. Let's change content to fields. Now, just for people who don't know, what content does is that content will simply display the view mode. So a view mode is a collection of formatters that you can configure. But what I want to do is I want full control. I want absolute control, because with absolute power comes out. No, what is it? Yeah, absolute control comes with absolute power. Anyway, let's click on fields and let's select fields. And now below that, we have the fields section. Oh, with absolute power comes absolute responsibility. There we go. Oh, I am struggling tonight to remember those quotes. All right, so we have title. That's good. We need title. Now we need the actual thumbnail. I do believe if we search for video, let's add in the video field, and from the formatter, select thumbnail. So this is a custom formatter specifically for media. And this will automatically create a thumbnail for us. So in our case, it's going to be the downloaded thumbnail for the video. And let's link to the content. And yep, things look nice there. Let's also rearrange it. And let's put in the authored, the authored on. And which format are we going to give it? Let's give it a nice format, which is that particular format. And we can take a look below. Yes, that is looking good. What else should we do? Let's put in also, well, let's save this for now. All right, all right. Let's look at this markup. What is this markup? Let me increase this a little bit, just so you can see it. That is a span. All right, let's make this H3. Now we can easily do that by clicking on title, style, settings, customize, field, HTML, and let's change it to an H3. So that's going to just change everything to an H3. Nice. It's looking much nicer. And let's also change, well, let's fix up this date field. What I want to do is I want to add in, so let's rewrite this. We'll add in the created. I just want to see what this looks like. And then if I put in the user, we can have a little pipe and then the user. And what we're going to do is add in the authored by, put in the Label should be fine. Let's have a look and see what we get for label. Okay. All right. It's going to show anonymous, but that's okay. And what I want to be able to do is chuck in the anonymous replacement token. But if we click on replacement patterns here, you'll see that we cannot see the actual authored by. And the reason for that is because the authored by, if we take a look here, is after the authored on. So all we need to do is move authored by above authored on. So let's rearrange it. And let's also exclude it so it's not displayed. And if you click on replacement pattern, you will see UID, that is it. But also take note here, the following replacement tokens are available for this field. Note, due to rendering order, you can't use fields that come after this field. If it's not listed, then rearrange your fields. So rearrange your fields. And we can go one step further and actually make this italicize this. Can we? Is there an I here? Yeah, there is. And you can also put tweak code in as well, but we're not going to do that. We are not going to do that. There you go. And now if we refresh, oh no, let's resize. Well, what happened there? This, let me hide that stuff. You can see that is kind of responsive. There you go. Goes in to a single column. Okay. That is pretty much that. So now we have a nice front end to view all of these videos. This actually looks pretty good. Maybe I'll do something like this on actual WebWash website, but the site's not Drupal. But if we click on here, we can see, then we can drill down and view our videos. We could even create a block here on the side if we wanted to. But we're not going to do that. So you can see here. Okay, now that's pretty much it. I hope you've all enjoyed this stream and learned how to use the feeds module. If you want to learn more about Drupal, head over to webwash.net. Also head over to the WebWash YouTube channel. We have a lot of videos over there. A lot of videos, and add your comments to them. And if you have any ideas for future live streams, please let me know. I'm always looking for ideas. And as you can see, we do have a lot of videos. Yeah. People do ask. A lot of people do think that I just do the live streams once and that's it. But no, all of these live streams can be watched after the fact on YouTube, and YouTube's the best place for it. It's always, yeah, you can watch it after the fact. And that was one of my reasons to get into more live streams, because the video's out there. It's done. No editing, no cleaning all my ums and ahs, none of that. Just get it out there and get it done. Anyway. All right, well, that is it from me. I hope you've all enjoyed yourself. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.